people were above the trees, people like to be above the river and nature. Don't worry about it. But some people who weren't that way were in the Oregon Wilderness Coalition, and I'm reading from their newsletter, Volume 3, Number 2, February 25th, 1976, edited by James Monteith. Southern Corvallis additions to be considered in Siskiyou Forest Plan. The Siskiyou National Forest has initiated planning on the Chetco and Grayback planning units. The Chetco unit contains all the roadless land, inventoried and uninventoried, contiguous with the Kalmiopsis wilderness on the south. Much of this de facto wilderness is included in both Senator Hatfield's Oregon Omnibus Wilderness Bill and Congressman Weaver's Kalmiopsis Bill. It is important that conservationists do well on this important phase of land use planning because this opposition is organized. Both Hatfield and Weaver are watching the Forest Service planning process and see public response as a political barometer. The Grayback unit, which contains no identified roadless land, includes all Siskiyou NF lands west and south of the Red Buttes Wilderness proposal. Therefore, both planning units will have tremendous influence on the wilderness character of the Kalmiopsis and Red Buttes areas. Timber management on surrounding lands cannot be ignored. Yamsay Mountain gets shaft in draft. The Wainema Forest has overwhelmingly and embarrassingly revealed its timber-dominated resource management goals in the recently released Chemult Planning Unit Draft Environmental Impact Statement. This plan, a first attempt by the Weyerhaeuser National Forest, sees timber in terms of absolutes. If the ground ever grew 20 cubic feet of wood per acre per year, it absolutely must be cut. They treat the term commercial forest as an allocation rather than the definition it is. And therein lies the problem. It is not enough to allocate 100% of land classed as commercial forest land outside the roadless area to timber management. The Wainema proposes to increase their allowable cut another 1% by designating all commercial forest land within the Yamsay Forest for land allocation. The remaining 75% of Yamsay, which is non-commercial forest, would be generously designated dispersed recreation. Conservationists feel the Yamsay Mountain Roadless area in its entirety, and with small miscellaneous additions, especially on the southwest side, should be allocated to wilderness study in the final EIS. The area is invaluable as a source of undisturbed and unaltered wildlife habitat and for opportunities for primitive recreation. I like that, primitive recreation. It contains the most important watersheds in the entire planning unit. Many of its soils are highly erosive. To the Klamath, Yamsay Mountain itself was the legendary home of Yamash, the north wind, and is sacred. The Yamsay Mountain Roadless area is the only one of its kind, an island in a sea of Weyerhaeuser, Wainema, intensively mined tree farms. Cruising timber. A tree with schizophrenia, a tree with conflicting opinions, a tree allergic to its own needles, a tree standing on its head, a digital tree, statistically significant, a patented tree, a moon-worshipping tree, a tree that talks to dogs, a tree in the proboscis of the mosquito that just bit me, a new bomb that leaves a 20-mile radius festering with trees. Not a proposition trees. Trees who prefer Picasso's eyes, trees preferring tubas, a steady greenish cast to the galaxy's center, the ginkgos who are ears in another dimension, retarded alders, metallurgical oaks nailing the earth shut with bitter heat, sequoias who traded sex for longevity, moss the liberated brains of long extinct trees, squirrels of karma, lightning the jealous suitor, chainsaws of mathematical impossibility. Geothermal development in the Albert, we think of it. In southeastern Oregon's cattle country lies the Albert Basin. It is bounded on the north by Mickey Mountain, the east by lava plateaus, and southward by a gradually rising playa of dry lake floor between the Trout Creek and Pueblo Mountains. To the west, the Steens Mountain Range roars up 9,700 feet with essentially no foothills. Geothermal development of the Albert Basin is in progress. Several leases have been sold at Mickey Hot Springs and Albert Hot Springs. Temperature gradient holes to 200 feet have been drilled in many places. But conservationists argue that an environmental impact statement should be written before this fragile and unique system is tampered with any further. The Oregon High Desert Study Group, OHDSG, and the Sierra Club are taking the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, to court to achieve the following. Stop the leasing of these public lands for potential power plants with a preliminary injunction requiring an environmental impact statement. Judge Burns, the presiding judge, did not grant the initial injunction request to halt the leasing. However, he took a somewhat personal interest in the matter, made arrangements to watchdog the exploratory drilling, and admonished the BLM for its inadequate analysis of the situation. The plaintiffs, the OHDSG, and the Sierra Club are now appealing to a higher court. And whether or not the higher court grants the injunction request, the lawsuit for an EIS will still be pursued. The total fauna represented in the Albert Basin exceeds 250 species. Coyotes, jackrabbits, cottontails, assorted ground squirrels, voles, and mice abound. A myriad of insect life inhabit the areas around the geothermal springs. Indeed, a representative of almost every order of insect found in North America may be seen. A wide variety of reptiles may also be observed. Great Basin rattlesnakes, gopher snakes, desert night snakes, various garter snakes, and several lizard species, including collared lizards, leopard lizards, and also the impressive horned lizard. Over 200 species of birds use the basin. Red-tailed hawks, Swainson's hawks, golden eagles, magpies, ravens, turkey vultures, ducks, geese, rails, herons, swans, egrets, cranes, songbirds, and countless other small birds. Greater sandhill cranes, prairie falcons, and peregrine falcons, bald eagles, chukars, goshawks, yellow-billed cuckoos, mule deer, and pronghorn antelope have been observed. Many areas within the Albert Basin are of great scientific value. A very unique geology, flora, and fauna are frequently studied by students from Malheur Environmental Field Station and also postgraduate researchers from the Northwest. Other research values, including primitive recreation, opportunities are also significant. Mickey Hot Springs is an area about 1,300 feet in diameter with clear turquoise pools 8 to 10 feet across with temperatures at 200 degrees Fahrenheit and a boiling mud pot. A plethora of plants, insect life, snakes, and lizards is the subject of several ongoing studies. The Albert Desert is a white alkaline flat, 8 miles by 11 miles, which lies southeast of the Steens mountain summit. Albert Hot Springs is a temperate 170 degrees Fahrenheit springs which emerges from the base of the Steens at the south end of the desert. The community bathhouse still functions. Borax Lake is a warm springs, 90 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 275 yards in diameter with an adjacent lower runoff reservoir. A shallow but extensive marsh area surrounds the lake and provides cover for thousands of birds and habitat for the Albert chub, a fish found only in the Albert Basin. There's a poem from the Albert Hot Springs. Bitter taste of bile and bad water litters the ground. White toes grab at dust with uncertainty, buzzing head filled with grasshoppers and hornets, clicking louder than my thoughts. How can I crawl under a rock? My head is bigger than this desert. The OHDSG and Sierra Club are not against all geothermal development. In fact, many members strongly advocate such an energy source in less sensitive areas. But among the adverse effects are roads and increased accessibility to critical archaeological sites, to the nesting areas of threatened and endangered birds, and to lands so fragile the wagon trails from the 1800s are still visible. 2. The immense drain on the local fresh water supply for necessary cooling water and the subsequent effect on the basin's residents and wildlife. 3. Chemical pollutants in the wastewater, including heavy metals which accumulate in the food chain. 4. Noxious gases emanating from the power plants. 5. The tremendous noise pollution of such an operation on a perfectly flat, treeless expanse. 6. Power lines and the subsequent visual pollution on the immediate area and also on Steens Mountain, which is a popular and recreational scenic area that views the entire Albert Basin. 7. The danger of uncappable blowouts. In summary, conservationists feel the potential benefits are outweighed by the adverse effects for the Albert Basin, and that non-controversial geothermal sites should be developed first. The OHDSG and the Sierra Club are not anti-geothermal power development, but pro-land use planning. 2 Portland attorneys, Charles Martin and Peter Davis, have contributed time free of charge, but courts costs are mounting and the Albert Defense Fund needs your help. Please send your contributions to the Albert Defense Fund, Suite C, Mikado Block, 117 Southwest Taylor, Portland 97204. And we'll close with Gary Snyder. Toward climax. Science walks in beauty. Nets are many knots. Skin is a border guard. A pelt is borrowed warmth. A bow is the flex of a limb in the wind. A giant downtown building is a creek bed stood on end. Detritus pathways, delayed and complex ways to pass the food through webs. Maturity. Stop and think. Draw on the mind-stored richness, memory, dreams, half-ingested image of your life, detritus pathways. Feed the many tiny things that feed the owl. Send heart boldly traveling on the heat of the dead and the down. Oregon Wilderness Coalition, P.O. Box 3066, Eugene, Oregon 97403.